I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today, I'm joined by Miss Marcy Langlois. She is a trauma survivor and chronic illness warrior with 20 plus years of sobriety. She shares tips and tools accumulated from a lifetime of work to help others live beyond their limits through a free podcast and through focused exercises and resources on her Patreon. She also has online classes that are coming soon. So, Marcy, thank you so much for coming on today. I cannot wait to hear your story.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity, Noah.
So, kind of tell me a little bit about your backstory. Just kind of start from the beginning about how life was for you growing up, and tell me a little bit about your journey so far.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in a small town in Vermont, and I was born with a cleft lip and palate. And for those people that don't know what that is, that means your lip is separated and there's no roof to your mouth. And so medical intervention was necessary from the day of birth. And I ended up having 25 surgeries over the next 18 years of my life. And things were really chaotic in my home. My father was an alcoholic, and we didn't have a lot of resources and no running water and no electricity for I don't know how long, a year or two. And and then just with my dad's alcoholism and his chaos and me requiring medical attention and needing so much all the time, everything was constantly feeling unsafe, in my world and in my home. And at an early age, I knew that I was definitely not heteronormative, and I couldn't name at 5 years old that I was a lesbian, but I definitely realized very early on that there was something going on that was very different for me than what the other kids were experiencing. And I was sitting in a Catholic school. That wasn't really ideal circumstances for me. And as you know, as the time passed, the shame grew about who I was, the way I looked, the way I spoke, where I came from, all of these things. And I kept just trying to push all of that down. And by middle school, I started experimenting with alcohol. I really started drinking much younger than that, but really on a regular basis by the time I was in middle school. And then I moved into high school, and things were going along in high school. And I had a lot of surgeries in high school because once your body stops growing, then they can do all the reconstruction to your face. The way that I look today is not anything the way I looked when I was younger. And, I've had my jaws broke twice and my nose redone, and, huge changes. And so during high school, I was pretty consumed by that, but really drinking and started using drugs to deal with the pain of being very, very different from other people and not being able to really face who I was and own that. And then as high school was wrapping up in my senior year, I'd applied to college and I had gotten in, and I was like, okay, my last surgery was happening. And I was like, okay, this is like a breath of fresh air. And where we're going is a new opportunity, a new chapter for a new beginning for me. And as I moved into January of my senior year, I had an after school job, and on my way to my after school job, I ended up getting in a very serious car accident that ultimately claimed the lives of three people. And I held myself responsible for that event, even though I wasn't legally responsible and I wasn't drinking or using drugs. I felt like I was responsible, and that was really the end of me.
So during this time when you were addicted to alcohol, um, how were you getting the alcohol? Were you sneaking it from your parents, or were you trying to get it from other people that had access to alcohol?
Yeah, I was getting it from other people that had access to alcohol.
So once you got into that program, you started, what was the moment you realized that you wanted to get help and wanted to go to meetings to get sober?
Yeah, so essentially what ended up happening is after the car accident, I spent the next 10 years of my life pretty much trying to kill myself every day with drugs and alcohol because I couldn't deal with what I had witnessed and been through and felt responsible for. And I woke up every day with a mission to just be out of my mind because it was too painful to be awake and sober. And so what ended up happening is I met a woman, and she had a daughter who is she's now my current wife, and it is our daughter that I ended up raising with her. But I met her when she was just 8 years old. And so one day I was going to pick her up at school, and I had been drinking, and I was going to take her back to the bar with me. Because that's what my dad did with me. He'd pick me up and then he'd take me to the bar. And so I was doing the same thing to my daughter that had been done to me. And as I was driving back to the bar, it like hit me like a two by four. Like I'm literally doing exactly what was done to me. And she didn't ask for this. Like she didn't invite me into her life, right? Like I'm her mother's partner, and this isn't right. Like I have to do better. And within 10 days time frame, it's very loose because I was an active alcoholic and addict at that time, but somewhere around 10 days from that point of time, it was March 25th 2003 that I attended my first meeting. And I've never had a drink of alcohol or done another drug since that day. And I I just decided that I was going to stop the cycle. Like I wasn't going to do that to her.
Describe to me a little bit about what the recovery process for you was. Was it a difficult process? Was it kind of a quick recovery? Tell me a little bit about what the program, what you did for the program.
Yeah, no, it definitely is not an easy process, and it's not a quick process. For me, I wanted to continue to drink and use drugs for the first 17 years that I was sober. And what I mean, drinking is a symptom of the problem. It's not actually the problem. And and so, really, what was going on is I had to deal with all of the trauma that I had been through that had not been processed. And so, that's what I needed to work on. And even though I was going to therapy and stuff, it still wasn't enough. It took a long time to work through the process of healing. And it's still a thing, like every day I have to wake up and make a commitment that no matter what happens today, I'm not going to use drugs or alcohol.
Have you been very close to relapsing?
Oh yeah, for 17 years, every single day, I wanted to drink for sure.
When you were in the program, did you meet anyone? while doing the recovery process that really motivated you to do the program? Or explain to me a little bit about what some of the people that you met in the recovery when you were getting clean.
Yeah, I think it was just you know, today, today I have a group of women that um really I have like four people that I'm very close with that all have more than 30 years of sobriety and recovery under their belt. And these women have been the group of women that have surrounded me really for about the last 15 years or so. And they know everything about me, and the way they live their life inspires me to want to show up and be the best person that I can be. They walk in integrity and truth every day, or that's at least what they aim for. And so I would say that these are the people that have inspired me the most.
Do you still stay in contact with anyone from the AA program that you had met when you first started doing the sobriety journey?
Um, I mean, yeah, peripherally, not, not in a daily contact with them or whatever, but peripherally, through social media and stuff, I can see that these people are still around and doing well, or, some are not. But yes, some people.
What's the biggest misconception people have about AA? And because some people might be afraid to start AA meetings because they heard this. What's kind of one thing that a lot of people don't really understand about it?
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to speak on that because I'm not, AA is the methodology, or AA is the structure in which I use to get sober, but it is not um like I'm not a big AA guru. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
there is a lot of misconceptions about AA, but there are a lot of things about AA that are actually true and accurate. And you know, that's a really difficult question for me to answer. I want to be really mindful and thoughtful about what I say and how I say it. But mainly, I think a really big misconception about AA is people think that you have to believe in God. And that's not true. You don't have to believe in God. The only requirement for membership to Alcoholics Anonymous is a desire to stop drinking. That is. If you go sit in meetings, there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions that will tell you you need to believe in God. And I think that's what causes the misconception is a lot of opinions of people, but the program itself actually is not founded on those concepts. It's other people's opinions. It's kind of like what people have done with religion. They've taken religion and made it really divisive instead of just saying like, this is what it says, right? And that's what's happened with Alcoholics Anonymous also.
So once you had gotten clean, explain to me a little bit about how life has been since then. You had mentioned that you run a podcast and that you've had a Patreon thing. Was the podcast and some of the resources that you have on Patreon kind of a way for you to give back to people, to help people that, this is what I went through. I want to give back to what and let them know some resources that I didn't know prior?
Yeah, and yes, that's true. And I've also discontinued my podcast, and I'm sorry I didn't let you know that, but I have discontinued my podcast um because it was so much work, honestly, and so much time that I just couldn't do a good job with it. Um, and so what I've done is I've just transitioned to social media. And so my social media accounts are full of obviously free information about how to recover from addiction and trauma and all the things.
What have been some stories that you've heard from followers that you have about um, they've looked at your social media and they've listened to the podcast in the past and all these resources? Have you had any people anyone reach out to you and have shared their story with you about their journey with alcohol or drugs?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. People will reach out and tell me, I mean, people, there's so many, there's so many circumstances of what people will share with me. But usually it's all sort of the same, is that they come from a background or have had life experiences that are incredibly difficult. And they started drinking and using to try to figure out a way to deal with it because they didn't have any other way to deal with it. And inevitably, that didn't work out for them long term. And that somehow they found me and my story has inspired them, or they got sober too a long time ago, and it's nice to know a fellow traveler on the journey kind of thing.
If you could go back and tell your younger self some good advice about where you would be today, what would you tell your younger self?
I would definitely tell her not to give up, that it's not going to always be like this, that things are going to get better, and that you just have to believe that everything happens for a reason and things will shift and get easier.
How supportive has your wife and your child been to you on this journey? Did they kind of help save your life and make it to where you want it to be clean further?
Yeah, 150%. They're so on board. They're my biggest fans, and they respect my journey. And they would go to meetings with me, like, yeah, no holds bar. They were 150% behind me, and still are. Like, they still are. They understand that it's an ongoing thing.
Your daughter could probably look at and you might could share details with your daughter about your past. What do you want your daughter, or what advice would you give to your daughter to where she doesn't fall down the same path that you did?
Yeah, she already knows, she knows all the things. She knows that there's a place to get help if she ever needed it. She knows that trauma needs to be addressed and dealt with. She knows that, having a spiritual practice is important to dealing with life and dealing with your past. And so she lives those things today.
For anyone that's listening to my show today and if they're battling with alcohol and drugs, what advice do you have for them on how they can really change their life for the better and take that first step to recovery?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is that you have to have a desire to stop drinking or using drugs, right? Like, and if you find yourself in that spot where you're ready and you think you're ready to stop using or drinking, then, there's so many ways to recover nowadays. It doesn't have to just be Alcoholics Anonymous or NA or whatever. There's smart recovery. There's tons and tons of podcast shows that talk about recovery and how to recovery. Like Tommy Rosen has a really powerful podcast show. And he takes you from A to Z on recovery. So there's so many resources, tools, coaches, peer recovery support. So literally Google getting sober, getting clean, and you'll have 1,001 options. But for the most success, it's usually you have to be willing to stop, right? You have to be in that spot where you're ready to stop.
If people that are listening would like to check out your resources and would like to learn more about ways that they can start today on how to get clean and can start that recovery, where can they find you on social media? And feel free to plug anything that you have going on.
Oh, thanks, Noah. Yeah, basically you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And it's just my first and last name on all of those channels, just Marcy Langlois. Um, And you can reach out to me through any of those messengers, DMs on any of those platforms. Or you can also check me out on marcylanglois.com. I have a website there active.
Well, Marcy, I appreciate you so much for coming on here and sharing this story. I think it's a huge thing to be able to come on here and share this story. It's very important. And I wanted to say congratulations on your sobriety. It's a huge step and a huge milestone to have 20 plus years sober. So I'm so happy for you that you're in such a good life now. And to my listeners, I'll put her website and I'll definitely will put all of her social media links down there. So if you have questions about sobriety or if you have questions and would like some resources, there will be some links down there for you to go to where you can easily find her and it'll be easy access for you. Feel free to follow me on social media as well. Instagram, TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcast. And as always, listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Pandora, as well as other platforms. So feel free to follow the show to where you get notified of when new episodes drop. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today, listening to today's episode. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.